Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the March 21st, 2023 regular Planning Board meeting here in Sunset Beach Town Hall Council Chambers. Seeing we have a quorum, if you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as we start every planning board meeting off with, I'll read a statement, get a concurrence from the entire planning board. Does any member of the planning board have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to any item on the agenda? And if so, please state so at this time. Sybil?
No.
I do not.
I do not.
I do not either.
Okay. We have a draft agenda before us. Does anybody have any wishes to amend the draft agenda as before you?
No.
Richard?
No.
Ron?
That's good.
I do not.
No.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the draft agenda for March 21st, 2023 as submitted.
I so move.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. We have public comments is our next item, but seeing that we have no one in our audience, we will move forward to the number 4 on the agenda, consideration of approval of minutes. The first set of minutes that we want to review and hopefully approve is the January 19th, 2023 meeting of the planning board. Does anybody have any wishes to amend those draft minutes?
I do not.
Nope.
I do not either.
No.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the January 19th, 2023 planning board minutes.
I so move.
We have, okay, and we have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, January 19th draft minutes approved. The next set of minutes that we're going to review is the February 2nd, 2023 regular planning board meeting. Does anybody have any comments or any amendments they'd like to make to these? Ron?
Yes, on page 3, package page 7, on the top there, concerning table 3.4 minimum off-street parking space, which occurs on page 375, dwelling single family, that, I guess the sentence is, to me, not correct. Certainly, that one doesn't match my notes because we got 2 per dwelling plus 0.5, then a 1.0 per bedroom over 4, and then the words 3. My understanding, my notes clearly say it should be 2 per dwelling unit plus 1 per bedroom over 3 bedrooms.
So your objection is to the 0.5 even being there,
Right.
and the 4 in parentheses even being there.
Yeah, the 4 and then the 4 in parentheses.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it looks like it's what, my notes are really pretty good on that one. It used to say dwellings, comma, single family.
and you're on page 3-75.
75.
Okay.
It says 2 per dwelling unit plus 1/2 per bedroom over 4 bedrooms. So it looks like the old stuff didn't get removed. It should say 2 per dwelling unit plus 1 per bedroom over 3 bedrooms.
I agree. That's exactly what my notes say.
Right.
I've got
Now,
that as
we
well.
also made a change to the family care one. This is correct, except that second half after the plus sign.
Let's
Yeah.
make sure on the dwellings for your first item that we all are in agreement. We need to. You're saying, Ron, and I think I agree. It needs to read on the minutes 2, and then 2 in parentheses per dwelling unit plus 1 per bedroom over 3, and then 3 in parentheses bedrooms.
Right.
So we're going to strike the 0.5. We're going to strike the word for, F-O-U-R, and the 4 in parentheses. from that dwelling, single family.
Correct.
Yeah.
Does everybody agree with that wording? It's what I
Does
show
that match
from our notes.
your notes, Wes? Okay.
Yep. Okay, go on to your next.
Well, family care home.
Yes.
My notes are not as good there. I have highlighted just what it says now for family care home is one space for each attendant in addition to the required 2 spaces per dwelling unit. I have that highlighted, and I think we made the change there to sort of be the same as single family. What I know is the stuff in the minutes ain't right because it's got the same problem. It's got both sets of data.
What I wrote there, Ron, is I wrote exactly as it's underlined, which is new wording, just like you read.
Right.
And then I say plus 1 bedroom over 3.
Yes,
Right.
That's
what I think. It should be the same as the single family wording. And again, the minutes have both sets. It has the 0.5 and the 1 and the 4 and the 3.
Plus the attendant.
Katie?
But as Pete alluded to, it's the new wording plus 1 per bedroom over 3.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
1 per bedroom over 3.
Listen, Katie.
Oh,
Okay. Mhm.
The point five.
And you sent these to me previously, I believe.
Right.
And I think this went right by me.
so we should again strike the 0.5.
Yes.
Right.
We should also strike the word 4
And the
and the
parentheses.
4 in parentheses, right? The West, does that agree with what you got?
I don't have the minutes in
Oh,
front of me,
that-
but
that-
I can just tell you that on my notes it will say the new language plus 1 per bedroom over 3.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Right.
All right. I concur with what Ron said. That agrees with my my notes. Is it clear to you as to how we need to
Yeah.
amend that? Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Thanks, Katie.
Any other comments regarding the minutes for February 2nd, 2023?
No.
I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of February 2nd, 2023 with the revisions that Ron has just suggested on dwelling, single family, and family care home.
I so move.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Thank you, Ron. Going to the third set of minutes that we're reviewing today. We're looking at March 2nd, 2023. I did have a change, and Katie and I talked about it briefly. It's on packet page 10, which is the third sheet of the March 2nd meeting minutes. And if you go down to the middle of the page where we're changing section 3.42 and we're renumbering it to 3.32, it's just a housekeeping item, but the next line where underlined section 3.42E, I believe should read 3.32E. Everybody digest that?
Yeah, because we changed it.
Yeah.
We changed the section heading.
Yeah, and once we've changed it, I think we need
Right.
to be consistent as we move forward in the minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the meeting, March 2nd, 2023,
I so move.
with the exception of the 3.42 being changed to 3.32 under section E.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Katie, is that clear? Okay. All right, thank you all. Moving on, we're going to section or item number 5 in our agenda for today, conditional zoning discussion. I'd like to turn that over to Chad, first of all, to give us some guidance as to what this subject, what the scope of our discussion should be here.
Yes, I wanted to have a brief discussion and again, emphasize on brief. This is not to discuss the contents of the submittal, but also just some highlighting points of how we are going to be reviewing this when it comes up in the next few weeks, and ultimately how you're going to review it and when it gets in front of you, because this is, again, the first time this town has ever seen a conditional zoning submittal, and also something that is different than anything really a planning board has ever seen in Sunset Beach. So I'm going to go into, first of all, before I ask Wes to comment on a few things, is where we're at with it. The conditional zoning is officially submitted. We are on the clock. So staff has by April 30th to bring this forward to you. I am currently working
Can
with,
I ask you, we're on the clock because, and I'm not just talking about this specific one, but in the future,
yes,
are we on the clock? Does the clock start ticking 60 days once a application is before us and we accept that application?
that is correct.
All right. If an application comes in and we do not accept it, the clock does not
And
start.
the difference between accepting and not accepting would be deeming it complete.
But that's under the purview of town staff, not the planning board.
I understand
Okay,
that. I'm
gotcha.
talking
Yeah.
about, because we've not seen it yet. So
That's correct.
Correct.
he says the
Correct.
clock is ticking.
Yes,
We didn't make it tick,
Yeah.
but the town did by approving
that's correct.
deeming the
Accepting the
application
application, right?
complete.
That is
So
correct.
the conditional rezoning ordinance gives town staff the role of starting the clock.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, by that point, once the clock is started, I have 60 days to bring this to you, regardless.
And if it hasn't been brought to the planning board, in 60 days, what's,
Then you get outside the burden of the UDO where it
Somebody
could
gets
be
fired.
challenged. Hope not, but it could be challenged, legally. So if we act outside those boundaries,
okay.
and then it ultimately gets denied, it could be challenged where town staff didn't act in the proper
Can it be
guidelines.
resubmitted?
Yeah, anything under the umbrella, depending on how it's challenged.
I mean, 60 days.
I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of
The way okay. Well, we can go on I take it to mean that I believe the intent of the ordinance is that the planning board is supposed to pass on a recommendation within 60 days of receipt of that application, meaning that when you would get the packet. But we don't. We'll sort this out.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to be specific to this one. I'm just trying to see
Yep.
when clocks start, who starts them,
And I guess the next question I would have, if in the presentation of the planning board asked for it to be modified,
So I guess
Then-
at this point, Wes, do you want
So
that does not reset the clock.
Yeah.
correct.
Well-
That does not reset the clock. So it is up to the planning board to make a recommendation on any conditional zoning proposal for approval or denial. You guys aren't the approving authority, but for approval or denial, or approval contingent on XYZ, or approval with certain conditions, or denial, or whatever the
so if we deny
buzzer.
and we give the reasons why we deny, they resubmit, the clock starts again.
no.
No.
No, clock never starts again.
It goes to the town council. You can't deny it. You can only make a recommendation for that.
Or denial or approval.
to?
That's correct.
All right.
And
got
the
it.
town council ultimately makes a final decision, but the town council, it's a legislative decision. They're not bound by any timeline.
Okay.
But
Um,
but until they approve it, there is no CZ agreement.
that's correct.
That's correct.
So the time clock, it's really no until it's approved legislatively.
So you guys have a time clock,
Right.
but town council does
Does
not.
not.
That's right.
So
So-
it's never yes until it's legislatively voted on and signed as yes.
That's
That's
correct.
correct.
So so we could. So
Yep.
I guess what I'm curious about is, okay, great, they don't have a clock, we do.
Yep.
It gets kicked back to us. Are now we still under the aegis of a 60-day limit? Because now I can see where we might start banging up against the 60
So
days.
procedurally, I would that would be up to the town council. I would advise that it is under the purview of the town council. So you need to make a decision on it. It doesn't get sent back to the planning board, except
So the town council denies it, and now the developer says, okay, based on the denial, I'm going to resubmit.
then there
Then the clock starts again, or no?
Well, then we need to look at your existing ordinance on anything for being resubmitted for the same property. But oftentimes there's a timeline that you have to wait to resubmit any denied proposal. Do you recall what
I
that
think
is?
it's a year, isn't it?
Yeah, I know it's in your draft ordinance
Yeah.
that way,
because
but
it
I
says
don't.
it should,
I
it
don't
shall
know.
follow the zoning map amendment process.
Yeah, and we
It's
would
a
have to
year.
look at your existing
Yeah, it's in Article
ordinance.
4.
Article 4.
Yeah, so it's a year.
Are you finished, Chad? Because we kind of cut you off by
Yeah.
asking questions. Did you want to say anything more to us before? Because I've got one question. Anyway.
I wanted to kind of give Wes a little bit of the floor with this on what it's going to look like, what's in front of you.
Mhm.
You know, 'cause imposing conditions, you don't want to over condition, you don't want to, you know, what your rules are when you get it submitted to you, when you're reviewing it, then your timeline from when you look at it to a recommendation or a denial, or whatever your recommendation is to the town council. So that was the whole purpose of me bringing this up, was to allow you to ask a few questions. Again, be very brief on this because we do have a UDO audit to look at, but just to make sure we are a little clearer moving forward with this.
Wes, let me ask a question
Sure.
if I could, please. Sybil, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Well, this, when they could resubmit came up, and I was just looking at the sentence that says, if it should fail to accept any condition following approval, the approval of the site plan for the district shall be null and void and of no effect, and proceedings shall be instituted to rezone the property to its previous zoning collection.
But that means after it's approved.
No, or denied. But it doesn't say
No, it
when
just
it
says
can be
approved.
resubmitted.
If once we approve something, they have to move forward with that. If they don't, with those conditions.
It says, if the approval of the site plan of the district shall be null and void.
That's the last sentence, yes.
Yes,
But
that's what I was
It starts
reading.
off by saying, upon approval, or some words like that, it makes the applicant do certain things.
Right, I understand.
And if they don't, we can deny it. We can then go back and remove that approval
So we can basically withdraw the approval.
if they don't meet all the terms and conditions that we agreed to.
Is there a time limit on that, or is that something that would be negotiated in the
So
approval?
so anything that, if it qualifies as what statutorily means to be a multi-phase development plan, then there's vesting that occurs for a period of 7 years. But just like any project, say you guys approved a site plan and it had, a certain number of trees that had to be planted, and they didn't plant those certain number of trees, they'd be in violation. They'd be subject to zoning violation. Similar to any conditions that were attached to conditional zoning violation, it's subject to a zoning violation.
Let me ask a
Yeah.
very general question,
Yes.
Wes and Chad. If a parcel is zoned presently as something, and it can be anything, MR3, MB1, whatever, it's zoned right today prior to the application coming in for conditional zoning. Can that application, right off the top, request that parcel or parcels be rezoned to a different zoning classification?
Yes. So essentially, any conditional zoning request is you're more or less creating a new standalone zoning district for that individual parcel,
Okay.
and so it could say, we want to create conditional zoning, and we want to have no setbacks and no density requirements. Whatever.
But if you're changing details within a zone, I can appreciate that. If you're, for reasons of being able to have a use that isn't allowed today, the applicant then says, instead of having it MR3, let's say, for example, I want to call it MB1
Sure.
CZ.
Yep.
Is that allowed? Can you jump to a totally different classification just to allow specific uses by right or by
Yes. And it wouldn't be called MB1. It would just be called CZ1
well, but it's supposed to, the way
Or
our thing is written,
or MR3 CZ. Right?
Yeah. That's what it says.
but if it says
Okay.
MR3 CZ whatever, does that mean that anything for MR3 today is really thrown out the door? That
Well,
it's
is it
open season to do anything that the applicant
It-
can
it-
convince us is good?
That's correct. Any uses, etc.
Well, my question is, okay, we grant the zoning change based on a proposal that's presented to us. Once that zoning change is granted, did they have a development by right where they can say, well, no, you've rezoned it. These are the zoning rules. These are the subsidiary
No.
regulations.
It depends on the terms of this of any conditional zoning request. So if there's a proposal to allow a certain number of uses administratively, then they'd be subject to site plan and subdivision
Yeah,
approval
it doesn't open the
procedures.
floodgates in the future for them to do things that weren't a part of that conditional zoning application.
In my mind, the way I viewed it and the way I view I'm going to look at it is, if it has a specific zoning now, and they're asking for conditional changes to that zoning, they need to spell out the changes they want, including
So
uses, but everything else for that zone remains unchanged.
think of it this way. Don't think of what it is currently zoned. You can think about it if you want. Think about what they're proposing to do. That anyone that's coming in to propose to you, imagine that all of the entitlements have been taken off the site, and I'm coming in and telling you exactly what I want to do on that site. Now there may be conditions that say that I shall comply with all of the parking and landscape requirements, or I shall comply with all the landscape requirements, but actually I want to do my parking this way, and it's different than what's in the ordinance.
Mhm.
I want my uses to be this, and I want my dimensional standards to be this, because we're almost going from a blank slate,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you what I want to do.
But that's,
So we have-
but that's next to
Let-
impossible
Ron-
to not fill all the
Let Ron
holes.
finish.
That,
You're going to have to essentially write a whole UDO for each CZ.
that's where you're going to have to rely on. So there's always a standard condition that says all other ordinance procedures, all other ordinance requirements shall apply.
Including for the original zoning district.
It depends on what's proposed. That's why I said don't think about what is the underlying zoning. Think about the proposal first, and then some of those questions will come out.
So it really, it puts.
Let me
it-
finish
it-
one more quick, because I was,
Go ahead.
in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, let's say the zoning district has a 25-foot front setback. Well, it has all the setbacks
Yep.
specified down, right?
Yep.
And in the conditional zoning, part of that request is, I would like to change the 25-foot front setback to 15 feet.
Yep.
We go, good,
Yep.
that's fine. But in my mind, that tells me all the other ones haven't changed.
And they would. So one of the conditions would be all rules are in place unless there's a specific request. But it is staff's also goal to try to make sure any conditional zoning application that comes to you stipulates uses, dimensional standards, the applicant's desire to comply with any of the additional development standards in the ordinance, so that it is clear.
And if they do change the setback, like Ron is suggesting, or is an example, we can also say, hold it, we're looking at where the site exactly is. If you want to make it 15 foot instead of 25 foot for your front setback, we want a more sophisticated buffer to protect adjacent views of that. So we can trade back and forth, because we see that they want the 15 foot. They've convinced us that it's going to be okay, but we still want to protect adjacent property owners.
Sure.
Is there any
Now,
way?
can I ask it? Let me. Now, does those conditional rezoning conditions, are they attached to the applicant? Or are they attached to the parcel?
It runs with the property in perpetuity.
So somebody else could come in, the original applicant saying, you know what, this seemed like a good idea at the time, but I'm not going to do it. Somebody can come in and not have to resubmit.
That's right, but it shouldn't matter to you guys, because technically you will have the town say that someone gets a conditional zoning proposal approved. The town will have legislatively approved something that theoretically they feel is a good project. It doesn't matter who builds it. Yeah.
So the thing that I'm getting at is we really do have the power to require that the developer be very specific in terms of what they are going to do.
So-
And the reason I ask this question, I don't know. I live in Sea Trail. Riptide submitted.
Let's not
Okay.
be specific.
But let
We
me-
are
let
not
me-
going
No,
to be
no, this
specific
is
in
this is
discussion.
important because what I hear and they're asking for is very general. It's not very specific. Well, we kind of think it'd be nice to do this, be nice to do that. When they submit an actual proposal, it is going to be very specific. Is that what we're going to require, Chad, or how is that going to work?
So let me ask, I will say this from a procedural standpoint. This is for all conditional zoning applications. And
Got
we've had this conversation before. One, the requirements that are supposed to be on the master development plan are stipulated here. So I would
Right.
encourage you to read those. And so remember, to Ron's question, to Pete's point as well, you guys, as part of a conditional zoning request, we're creating the framework. We're establishing
Right.
the zoning's erased, right?
Right.
And we're saying, okay, now on this parcel, you can do these things.
Right.
And we've said that you can do these things. I've got my entitlements. Now I can come back in with a detailed site plan. You said that I can do these uses and these dimensional standards, and I'm subject to those landscape parking requirements, whatever. So then, as part of the second step in that, I bring in a site plan that has all of the details.
But by that, their original has already been approved.
Yes, the permission.
Yes.
You're granting the permission to then do that later.
And it could be a list of 10 things, and maybe they're only going to do 2 of them, but they want us to approve all 10 so they can then select how they want to set up that parcel.
That's correct.
And in terms of, for instance, the commercials rezoning application, we would be able to specify the kind of commercial enterprises that they would be allowed,
That's
much the same way that we did in the text amendment that got pushed to the
A
curb.
conditional zoning applicant could choose, I know I only want to do this one use, or there may be 6 or 10 that seem to make sense.
And they haven't decided yet.
Whoever, I mean, it's up whoever it is. Yeah.
Well, you want to give them some flexibility because the developer probably is going to be the one that establishes the business. They're going to go out and solicit somebody else to come in and be the business in that space.
Mm-hmm.
But we just want to make sure that we
But it
don't
might
end up
not
with
even
tattoo
be a
parlors.
business. It might be they want to change it from one building standard to another. It's still a CZ.
It's a choose your own zoning district type of.
Well, I
submittal.
guess my concern is not the yeses, it's the nots. I mean, I'm concerned about missing something that wasn't allowed. And because if we don't put it in the condition, is it now been a default to allowed? I gotta
remember,
re-listen to all this again later, I guess.
only the uses that are granted permission for the site can be put on there, period. If any other use that's not allowed as part of that CZ is proposed, I got to go back through the whole process.
Okay, so
Similar, any of the dimensional standards are proposed to be changed from what were approved. Whole thing's got to go back through again.
okay, so the existing zone, if they don't request a change in the existing zoning regulations, those float up as part of the conditional rezoning application.
That's correct. So
Does that
someone
make sense?
theoretically could come in, which is, perhaps unlikely, but someone could come in and say, "Hey, I want everything that's in the ordinance for MB1. I want all of the dimensional standards that exist today. I want all the development standards that exist today, except I want to take my side setback from 10 to 7." That's the only thing that could.
Right.
But
All right, so we don't
Yeah.
beat this to
Yeah.
death. I think what we needed was a general overview. Sybil, are you comfortable at least with the general discussion we've had so far?
Yes.
Yeah, this
Well,
has been very helpful.
I know you want to review this, and I want to reread our conditional zoning agreement approved by town council. I've read it 3 times. I want to read it a 4th time because I come
I'm
up with
telling you, it
questions
takes
each
that
time.
long to
No.
understand.
the last thing I'll say is just remember there is the master development plan, and the word approximate is used
Yeah,
there.
I know, I saw that.
So, and that gets to that point. I hope that I was trying to convey that
Mhm.
we're not saying this is exactly where this footprint is going to go because
We're not getting a plot plan in front of us to review.
Right.
It's just general conditions that are being submitted.
That's right.
Now, is this something new, or is it just something you want us to be up on?
Yes.
I mean, has
Just
this
got passed.
changed?
It was just passed by the
Yeah.
town council.
Okay, that's what I.
We approved it, we reworded it, it then went to town council, they
Okay.
approved it with some rewording, adding an acre as a
I'm
minimum.
bringing this up because within the next 30 days or so, this will be in front of you to review.
With that being said, do you want to address now, or will you do it post-meeting and like a survey monkey to us as
I'll
to
do
when
it.
we'll have our
Yes.
meeting
Yes.
for this,
Just-
following the community meeting that the applicant is going to have on the
Yeah,
31st
so
of
the
March?
31st, there's a community meeting.
Has that been extended to all of Sunset Beach?
It's
Is that a requirement?
No, it's
Only
a
within
500 feet or something.
500 feet of
Okay.
each parcel?
Yeah, but if you look at where all the parcels are, I would beg to say that it includes most of Sea Trail
So
and others
I
outside of
provided
Sea
the
Trail.
applicant with the requirements to send out notification. So, and they've met that bound.
Okay.
I'll say this, there will be a third meeting sometime in April. That date is,
Third meeting for the planning board.
that is correct. We'll have a regular meeting on the 6th. We'll have a UDO update the third Thursday, and then there will be a third special meeting sometime in April. I don't know when yet. You will be getting emails from me today.
Is that with the applicant present, or is that just our meeting?
No, it will be with the applicant present.
I would venture to, for the planning board, I would suggest we have that be earlier than later, because if the 60 days started at the first week in March,
Yes,
if we're at the end of April having our meeting,
yes,
we will have no time.
that's understood. And
Yeah, and I'm out of town effective the 26th.
yeah, and like I said, I'm not here to get into specific dates. I've
Okay.
got to figure that out and check your
Send a
availability.
survey monkey, we'll tell you when we're available, but I'm just saying for
So-
the rest of the planning board, I'd rather do it sooner than later.
Yeah.
So
Even
the
before the
expectation
this-
is to be reviewed and voted on in the same meeting?
Wes, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, that's up to you guys. So,
It could,
yes, yeah, it could, yeah.
but the applicant may want to go back and reconsider some things. It's,
Everything under the sun.
So yeah, I mean that's not necessarily for staff to decide. So like I would encourage, just like any application, that if the board is comfortable moving it on, there's no reason to delay, right, acting on something.
well, I want to see the package.
Sure.
And
Yeah, and I think I have a little bit of a sense of what's going to be in it. So I look forward to getting it. It's,
all right, and I'm attending the community meeting on the 31st of March.
I'll be there too.
And I would advocate that people attend it. As citizens, I am not going to have a comment. I'm there to learn. And if somebody asks me a question, I'm going to say I'm here to learn like you.
And that is a very good point, Mr. Chair. Remember, you guys are all subject to open meetings laws requirements. So if you are all there
No
and a
deliberation.
quorum are there, you are absolutely not to, converse with each other about anything that's being discussed.
Or make deliberation statements.
Absolutely, yeah. You're just there in your social capacity, citizen capacity.
Good.
Pete, is anybody else planning on being there? I'm okay. Well, then
We'll
we're
have a
going to
quorum.
have an issue. It puts
We
me in
will
an
have a quorum,
uncomfortable
I can
position.
guarantee you.
I'm a homeowner in Sea Trail. I
Okay.
feel like I have a right to participate in this process.
So yeah, be there
All
and
right,
participate as a homeowner.
I'm going to suggest that we move
Yeah.
on
Okay.
unless somebody
Yeah.
has something else that's pressing. I think we've beat this for half an hour, probably longer than
Yeah.
we
Well,
needed to.
covered
We're
a
going
couple
to
things.
item number, pardon me?
I just said, we have covered more. We
UDO update continuation is our item number 6 in our agenda. Just for public edification that's watching on YouTube, this is our 9th meeting in the phase 2 of our UDO update process. We resumed today's meeting with the start of our new Article 4, which is subdivision regulations. And I'll just footnote here, if we can complete our review of Article 4 today, then I contend, or I see that we're back on schedule. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, if we start at Article 4, subdivision regulations, which I have as on of our new page 4-1. Sybil, did you have anything as we move forward in that Article 4 in the first couple of sections?
No, I did not.
Ron?
Nope.
Richard?
In section 4, I guess it's A, the access provided must be adequate to afford a reasonable means of ingress and egress for emergency vehicles, etc. Adequate's kind of a judgmental word. Who decides what is adequate and what isn't?
Sorry. So there is been now. It said formally. It said a lot has direct access to a public street if a sufficient portion of a boundary. Now it's stipulated specific. That's got to be 20 feet minimum.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this refers back to our Municipal Code 98.06, which gives more specificity to what is adequate.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Okay. It just seemed like kind of a general word, so I was curious.
Yeah,
as
that
to
doesn't need to be listed here then, right?
The 20 feet
In
is,
B?
is
The B, 20 feet there, I mean in B. I think we're talking about B, right?
I think it's still A.
No.
4A.
4,
Second
4B,
page.
right? That's where that adequate occurs.
Oh, B. In some
well, but that'll be determined by the fire department, by the
Yeah.
police department in their technical review of that
okay. All right.
process. Okay, we're moving through to section 4.5 easements. I had some issue with 4.5A. I really didn't know what that meant. Is the width of the easement dependent upon the depth of the utility? In other words, how deep of a cut they need to make to be able to access it for repairs, or?
So lots of ordinances stipulate a minimum, easement that runs along lot lines for certain utilities. At present, you do not have one, so we're at least making mention of it here, that where those easements, should they be provided, should go. We're not stipulating the width, though, and so that, yes, ma'am.
But also, I felt like that really wasn't a necessary statement because it said all easements, including width, shall conform with state and federal requirements.
That's B.
Well, okay.
But I believe Pete was alluding to A.
I thought you were.
I
talking
was
to-
alluding to A, but she brings up a good point.
Yep.
I just think it's a little vague, and the last sentence solidifies it. So I wondered if it was even needed.
Section B. I mean, you can.
No, when it transverses by a stream or drainage, an easement shall be provided, conforming with the lines of the stream and sufficient to the width. Yeah, all easements, including width, shall be governed by the state and federal requirements. So that it's not that big a deal. I just sort of felt like it was a little self-explanatory.
And just to be clear, we do have existing easements within the town that are ours. We do have existing easements along NCDOT right-of-way that is federally and state utilized. The EMC has easements along the town. This is just referencing easements and two sentences
Okay.
about them.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
I had nothing else for a little bit through 4.7, but does anybody on the planning board have anything short of 4.7?
No.
I'll note that inspections under 4.7C, Charlie, is from number 2 down is really a repeat of the Muni Code, but I guess there's reasons to repeat it. But
No, it will be taken out. So where we're
taken out of the municipal code, or
that's correct, because it
Okay.
should have been in here years ago.
If you remember at the beginning of this,
Yeah.
when we started in the audit, we talked about pulling 98 out of the muni code and putting
Yes.
it into
Yeah.
the UDO.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing here.
All right. Okay. I thought it would stay in both places, which always gives me gas because if you change it in one place, you could forget to change it in another.
No.
Okay.
So do we have, I guess, the acceptance of public improvements? I mean, we have a definition of what those are, correct?
Well, you have required improvements, and there's a list of those now. And that's on page 4.8.
Okay.
Depending on what the developer wants to do, some may be public that are offered for dedication to the town. Others may remain private, and so that could vary. So
Okay.
Okay, moving along. Anybody have anything in 4.8? I do, but it's a housekeeping item.
Well, I have one question on 4.7. I guess it's B3, which has been reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Is that something that, I mean, is that just procedural, or is this something that should be brought up to the town council level?
So town council does have to accept them, but the method of conveyance,
Okay, I got it.
they're
So the conveyance is really after the fact.
right.
No,
Whatever the legal documents that would be necessary for recording in the register, it's
Okay.
just a note here to make sure that they, if needed,
Okay, understood.
town attorney reviews it.
On 4. I'm moving to 4.8. List of requirement improvement. Anybody have anything prior to that? To me, I think it's housekeeping, but in 4.8F, I think it should say section 4.14. And in G, it should say 4.15. Just,
Sorry.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Also on H, any other improvement required as a condition for preliminary plat approval? Should we insert or conditional rezoning? Aren't there two ways that can be?
Pardon.
Where are you?
Where
I'm looking at 4.8H.
Yeah, I mean, any condition that was attached to a future subdivision that came after a CZ would still be on that preliminary plat. So it would move through the process.
Okay.
The key being with subdivision, your final plat needs to relate to your preliminary plat specifically.
Right.
So
a conditional rezoning is really a step in that chain. It's not
conditional
a split.
zoning is the first step,
Okay, got it.
then preliminary, then final plat for subdivisions.
All right. And this has to do with 4.9, streets and roadway work. Humor me. I believe that we have said there'll be no more private streets once this new UDO gets accepted by town council.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to be certain of that.
Let me be
Except
clear.
within the ETJ, because the
Right.
Yeah.
But
That's
within
in section B,
municipalities.
right?
Yeah.
Now,
That's B.
I also want to be clear with you, Mr. Chair, that just making sure we keep in mind that the existing private streets that we do have, we cannot force them to be converted over to
True.
public
True.
just because
They're
of
just
this.
non-conforming.
That's correct.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Where are those?
If
All
if
over.
they
There's a bunch.
if
Okay.
they are redone in
He lives on one.
ETJ, if the seats are redone because they are such poor quality, do we have to meet town standards? Or
So
State.
Only if
What-
they submit to us that they want the town to take over their street.
and then you also need to submit with you a request for annexation, because the town is not going to maintain any streets that's not in their corporate limits. So if it were to be public without being part of the corporate limits, that authority would be DOT, and DOT is really not going to accept anything that is
okay, I just
broad.
want to make sure that it didn't apply to ETJ.
She said never.
Okay. But
We're
in an
not- I heard of your
ETJ,
problem.
What?
we don't control that in an ETJ.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
All right. I had nothing with 4. I have some stuff when we get up to 4.9
Where we at?
C.
Yeah.
Oh, I have something in A.
All right. Hey, go ahead, Sybil.
All right, and this is just housekeeping. Let's use that term. The word irrespective, in 4.9A2 is. I just think a better word would be regardless.
Where's?
Irrespective is,
It's in the existing wording. Yes.
Okay.
and in.
I don't know what irrespective means, but
Okay.
For-
Regardless. Yeah.
I know I double checked to see if it was actually a word. I thought it was something people just
it
said.
is a word.
It is. I did check that, but I still don't like it. Anyway, 4.93 A3.
Mhm.
I just felt like that needed a little cleaning up because it gets confusing how the sentences run into each other. And the same thing with 4.9 C3.
All right. So
what do you
hold-
suggest?
All right.
I think that
Well,
we have
in 4.9A3, subdivision street disclosure statement. All streets shown on the final plat shall be designated in accordance, blah, blah, blah. And designation is public. It would be better if there was a period and designation started another sentence, because if you try to read any of this out loud, you see it's very difficult to do.
Okay, you want to see a period after the word public.
No, I want to see a
After the
period
6.
after NCGS 136-102.
Okay, all right.
we can
Well-
get rid of the and.
And
Yeah.
take out the and, its designation. Public streets are dedicated to the public, but not accepted into a municipal or the state system.
Well, you have to say streets designated as public because otherwise they won't know what you're saying.
Yes,
Okay.
all right. And that was that in that one, but in C3, that just needs to be looked at and made into sentences and not just one long paragraph sentence.
Wes, can we ask you to just take a look at the wording in B and C3 and see if you can, off camera.
Yeah, it just gets a little confusing.
And when we come back with the whole packet deal, I'll put an asterisk here that you were going to look at some just re-sentencing,
Yeah,
not
that's all. There's
repurposing.
nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. I don't have any issue with what is in it. It's just if it's supposed to. This is supposed to make it easy for the public.
To a certain degree, but
It's a
ultimately
legal document too.
it's a legal document. So that's why we have the UDO administrator to help when there's matters of confusion. That's his job to help convey to the public. Yes, we do generally want to make it more acceptable for the public, but it is, as Ron stated, a legal document.
But I'm not asking you to change anything.
No.
Yeah.
I'll look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to look at it. Yep.
No,
Just the word
just the word.
The word-
respective.
Irrespective.
irrespective of being replaced by regardless, the way I understood it. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And that's in 4.9A2.
Yeah. Like 3 lines down from the heading, street names.
And, okay, do you need, in number 3, do you need to have wording that we added or altered in that, or did you get that? Okay, good. As we move forward in this 4.9, C Charlie, number 4, and I'm on page 4.4-6, in section 4, which starts off cul-de-sacs. We talk about the right-of-way of a cul-de-sac shall have a roadwide diameter of 51-foot radii.
Mhm.
A diameter is one thing, a radius is another. It's a part of a diameter. And I don't know I don't know if you want a 51-foot diameter or a 51-foot radius. 51-foot radius would be
2 feet
102-foot
diameter.
diameter. So we either need to say diameter with a dimension or radius with a dimension.
Yeah, would it be better? Yeah, you're right. I think it's 102 foot diameter. So it
Yeah.
should say roadway diameter of 102 feet and period, no radii.
I also want to bring up the fact that I just dealt with this, and fire code, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, is 96.
Yep. So
I don't
Does
know.
not exist.
No, it's 96.
96
It-
diameter.
it-
All right.
And it depends upon your equipment, but I think that can be waived by I don't even want to get into that because you could buy a different piece of equipment
Yep.
5 years down the road. But
So, I mean, we have the turnaround, the standard turnaround, the standard turnaround width language that we typically use, which is different. This is a turnaround, not necessarily the
a
Well,
cul-de-sac.
this is the cul-de-sac diameter.
but says that you need basically 90 feet of pavement, but a right of way of 100. We can mirror that in that section prior.
Okay.
If that
Yeah,
would,
'cause-
if that would make things simpler
Mhm.
rather
Yeah, I
than
think that would be better.
the
Well,
half.
Yeah.
This right here is saying two things. It's not,
Yeah, it's
It
not
is.
even
It
clear.
is two separate things, and
Well, wait a minute. There,
but I think the answer should be a roadway of 51-foot radius.
Yeah.
The word diameter should not be in there.
well, just say roadway diameter of 102 feet and take the word radii
Well, I'm trying to
out.
change as little as possible, but
Yeah.
yes, it would say the same thing, what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Just say, shall have a roadway diameter of 102 feet, period. Said cul-de-sac shall be provided for any dead-end street, etc. And then we come to it again. Right.
The reason I was wanting to stay with radius is typically when you buy a fire engine, it's got a certain turning radius that's a part of the
right.
Oh,
specifications.
okay. Well, then, yeah.
So-
Then change the roadway diameter to roadway radius of 151 feet.
Well, it's a radius of
It'd be a radius
51
of
feet.
51 feet,
Yeah.
rather.
So
But
you
the-
strike
And
the
then-
word
and-
diameter.
And then the further next sentence it says 58 feet, which is the 96 diameter. So which one is it, 51
Oh,
or
I see what
58?
you mean. I didn't even go that far.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, Wes, you mentioned that because in some of these cul-de-sacs, is that radii have to be completely paved, or can a portion of it be
Yes.
paved?
that's well. So there's a right of way clearance, which is property line to property line, and then there's actually the portion of it that needs to be paved.
Right.
So there's two separate things that are spelled out here on both these sections.
And what's the additional 7 foot for? Is that for,
I mean,
Something?
the wheels don't technically, go through the entirety of the expanse, right? Like the tail end of the truck.
you're right.
Um,
You hang the bumper over and take the mailbox.
The
down every
overhang,
time.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's-
So, but I didn't come up with these rules, Pete.
Well, so I guess, Pete,
Yeah.
the question for you is the roadway of being
The pave-
51 foot radius, to me, the
Pavement.
roadway is the roadway pavement,
Yes,
is 51 feet radius,
Yes.
which is 102 feet in diameter.
yes.
But the right of way is 58 feet radius or 106 feet diameter. That is
Yes.
correct for the vehicles we
Yes,
need.
that to me
It's
sounds
just
like
then
it should be.
Settle on the fact we're only going to use radius
Right. So essentially,
in all cases and not say diameter.
what we're telling the property owner in that cul-de-sac is 6 feet back on your property. If a
7.
fire truck knocks over your mailbox, too bad.
Well, technically, it's not their property because it's in the
It's
right.
in the right of way.
It's in the right of way,
Yeah.
but technically that could
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
somebody's
but
lawn.
you can't plant a magnolia tree.
Right.
Right.
So is that correct? We're just going to those two.
I was
then-
gonna make them diameter because the next section is refers to diameter to make them.
I don't care.
Okay,
Yeah, we can do it.
yeah.
But we got to
Yeah.
be consistent. Either it's only
Yeah, we'll
diameters.
make it consistent.
All right. Margin note. Be consistent.
So we're going to
Yeah.
go the diameter and be 102
Yeah.
and 106 or whatever.
And do you want to insert
116.
some language in there, Pete?
16.
Considering
whatever.
that the emergency vehicles are gauged by radii at
Well,
diameter.
no.
Okay,
I'll
fine.
let the technical review committee deal with that.
All right,
It's-
right.
They're my boss, so.
So it will just radii is being stricken and it'll say 102 and 116.
Okay, moving on to D, street construction. Does anybody have anything, Sybil, do you have
No.
anything in there?
No.
Okay, Ron,
Nope.
Richard?
This may not be the place for it. I'm curious as to where it would be. One of the issues that kind of arches over all of this is the walkability within certain areas of Sunset Beach. Now, the way that's handled in a lot of areas is you have painted crosswalks. I mean, what means do we have to instill that as a requirement in the way this is written now?
It's probably in 411, isn't it?
Okay, then I've jumped the gun here. All right.
And just for the public's edification, we do allow alternate street designs because technology is advancing. And for us to say that you always have to have this pavement section with this amount of graded aggregate underneath it, there are alternate materials that can be used it just economically and with longer service lives. We need to leave that open to engineering
Absolutely.
alternatives.
Now, the cluster mailbox unit, I mean, that's a new federal post office requirement, correct?
That's correct.
We have no control over that, right?
That's correct.
Um,
So pedestrian.
Yeah.
Okay, then traffic control devices. I have nothing there. Okay, pedestrian facilities. You mentioned it, Ron. Did you have something
No,
Richard
was going to that. I
Yeah,
think
this
that's
is where I get a lot of feedback in terms of what I affectionately refer to as sidewalks to nowhere, and we're rife with them. And I don't know how we fix that. For instance, Chad and I have discussed the issue with the sidewalk that emerges from the sanctuary that, in the best of all possible worlds, should continue in a non-contiguous way in front of the new restaurant, in front of the sugar plat.
Unfortunately, it was approved as without.
How do we make sure that that doesn't happen again?
We do our homework and we pay attention.
Yes,
your
well, that
staff.
too.
Trust your staff.
Yeah.
Trust your
But
staff.
there are, I mean, what?
In fairness to Chad, that was not under his
Oh, no,
watch.
I understand. I mean, it was an oversight by those who shall remain nameless, who are no longer part of the team. But I mean, I'll give you another example that out of the sanctuary, there's about 100-yard section where the sanctuary property line ends, and there's a fairly large plat of land that is now, there's a road there, but there's no sidewalks that can connect the pedestrian to the commercial enterprises that they're going to want to walk to go have a dinner, a beer, or whatever.
And I get all of that. It's just, I know it was unfortunate that it was approved as it was.
Right.
The only thing we can do is look at what we can moving forward and putting the rules in place that such as what's in front of you to be able to do that. I can't go back and change the past.
Let's
or anything
let's
like
move
that.
on, please.
Well, let me ask, how do we create a rule? Because I have a feeling in the existing rule, there's no rule that would mandate that the sanctuary connect its sidewalk through a piece of property that it doesn't own to a commercial section where people are going to want to walk.
We have a 411C stipulates that sidewalks shall extend to the property line. Short of that,
Can't do anything else.
you know, you can't.
Can't make them put a sidewalk on land they don't own.
Right.
Correct. Yep.
And we just have to pay attention that when
Right.
somebody does development on the adjacent
Well,
lot,
wait a
that
minute.
sidewalk
We
continues.
own the first 6 feet. The town controls that first 6 feet. If the town comes in and says, "Hey, this represents a danger to pedestrians," we're going to require that you, as a developer, extend that sidewalk. And this is a very specific example.
It says it right here that moving forward, it's clear that you need to put a sidewalk in. Like Chad said, whatever happened in the past is a done
Yeah.
deal.
No, I get that. But we have a situation that I think was actually adjudicated based on the rules that they exist. I want to make sure that if we have a situation where there's a gap between where a developer is going to build a sidewalk and there's a commercial enterprise, that we have some means to require that gap be filled. Otherwise, you're going to have
It's
people
your
that live.
tax dollars.
Beg
Yeah.
your pardon?
It's your tax dollars. You cannot require off-site improvements unless the town pays for it.
Right.
Okay.
So if it's on site and going forward, If they follow this, they will put it in.
If it's along the
Right.
right of way,
So,
on
going-
your property,
Right.
but if it's down the street,
You can't.
no. I mean,
Right.
you can ask them, but I'll say, sorry.
And we've done that before.
Yeah.
The town has gone in
Yep.
50-50 with landowners to have
Yeah.
a sidewalk put
Yeah.
in because it was in the public's interest.
That's
Yes.
right.
You also see other towns, municipalities, counties around the area, around the region, around the state, around the country, seek grants.
Or
that type
they
thing.
have a capital improvement line item to fill in sidewalks,
That's
Right.
correct.
and the tax dollars pay for it.
That's correct.
Right.
So, but if your town doesn't want to pay for that, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
All right, we're,
Yeah.
into,
Okay. Yeah.
we're into pedestrian facilities 411, and not to confuse it with 3.23 pedestrian facilities, which was for commercial or non-residential. But we're throwing around a number of different numbers. In a non-residential, they need a sidewalk if it's more than 5 units. We changed it from you had 10, we changed it to 5.
Yep.
Now that we're in residential in 4.11,
Subdivision.
subdivision, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
subdivision
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you're
Yeah.
right. We're saying for subdivisions of 50 lots or more.
That's on both sides of the street.
Right.
Okay.
They got to put on one side of the street no matter what.
All right. Well, I'm
On all new major
I'm
subdivisions.
keying in 50,
Mhm.
the number 50. Would it be a major subdivision is more than 20 lots?
Correct. It's either 20 or more. Anyways,
Yeah.
20, somewhere around 20.
20 or more,
Yeah,
or more than 20, whatever the wording
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Why 50? What?
That's what we discussed
Mhm.
many moons ago.
That's for,
That's
just for both sides of the street.
Yes,
that's
for
right.
both
where,
sides of the street,
where
yes.
you felt like the investment was worthwhile. Like if someone's really doing a big project, then the additional cost of the site it still would be a lot.
Yeah.
But
But it could be amortized over a bunch of different lots.
versus a smaller subdivision where 20. I don't know.
Make it cost
It's
prohibitive.
where we arrived at.
Because the way this is written, if you're between 20 and 49 lots, you got
Just
to have
one side.
sidewalk on one side of the street.
That's correct.
As soon as you get to 50, you're putting it on both sides of the street. That's the way I recall it.
That's correct.
I think that still seems reasonable to me.
Yes, I just
Okay.
wanted to talk about the 20 for a major subdivision, and
So if you're
you convinced me otherwise. So
If
it's
you're under 20, you don't have to do either.
That's correct.
Now, is that
20 or
that-
more, one side, 50 or more, both sides.
now? What we defined a subdivision as being how many lots?
Well,
Major and
subdivision could
minor.
be 2 lots, but
Yeah.
the town is defining differences between what's considered to be a major subdivision
Right.
and a minor. And that major subdivision is 20 or more lots.
Okay.
Yes.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say a subdivision is 30 lots, but only 18 of them are built on.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter
Doesn't
because
matter.
it's a subdivision of 30 lots.
And,
This
and
is
they,
what
ca-
the
and they
base-
can't just
Okay.
say we're doing it in phases and get around it that way
That's
either.
correct.
Right.
It's-
Yeah.
The phases add up.
We've,
I understand.
we've been clear on that
Yeah.
with our new wording.
You can't do 19 phases to get under that. It's 5 times 19 makes it whatever it is, 90. And that's the subdivision size.
What I'm thinking of is too, in this 30 lot subdivision, number of owners own 2 lots or 3
It
lots.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was why I was trying to clarify.
Okay.
All right. I don't have any comments until we get to 4.13 stormwater drainage.
I have one, just
ahead.
a word, just
Go ahead.
4.12B, sewerage. It's not a word, it's sewage.
It is. Look.
It is?
It is.
Yes. Yeah, but
Sewerage is a
Well,
word?
yes, ma'am. But that's fine.
Sewage is a product.
Yeah.
Sewerage, I
It-
think, is referring
Okay,
to a
then leave
system.
it.
Yeah.
I stand
Yeah.
corrected.
Under 4.13, we reference Article 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? I say it should be Section 5.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. We were going to have a separate stormwater in your new, when we go back and you get the revised sections, that portion that refers to stormwater is now going to be placed in Article 2 because it is
Okay.
more of a procedural type item.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay, we're moving on to 4.14 subdivision street canopy trees.
Yeah, I
Ron
have, I,
or
go ahead.
Richard, go ahead.
I have an issue with item 7. Preservation of existing trees is encouraged. Seems to me to be a little too general. I thought we were going to have very specific requirements in terms of what trees are going to be preserved.
You do.
Yeah,
You do.
just remember that, looking back in Article 3 where we just went through landscape and the provisions that are guided under heritage trees and what you have to save or not save. And
Back there,
provide.
we changed the
Yes.
word encouraged to required.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
there's certain things. So this
Yeah,
was your
this-
existing language
Yeah.
about, I think,
So we could change that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
And should
strike
we
that.
should we refer back to required?
I don't know
based-
that it needs to be here. Number 7,
You
it's
can- you
already
can get-
covered.
Yeah, it's already covered. You can strike
So we're
7.
striking number 7.
Okay.
What I was referring to, Mr. Dysinger, is making sure that this would not omit them from past articles that would be required for their.
Okay. So the requirement is firmly in place somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
My,
So
my
let's.
comment is in A1, and I'm sure we discussed this and probably went this way. Again, we're saying only in major subdivisions.
Yep.
Is that really what we want for the kid? That means someone that's 19 or down don't have to put up any canopy trees along the street, right?
That is correct.
So we probably discussed it before and said that's
Yes.
what we want. Are we sure?
I forget.
We don't
and
want to just say all subdivisions?
No,
No, we
No.
don't want the small one. We
No.
don't have many. I probably.
that's correct.
Yeah.
But the also thing, are we going to put somebody who, a single owner who's going through the preliminary and final for a minor subdivision for 5 lots to put up street canopies through there?
Why
or
not?
whatever?
They'll have residential landscaping requirements anyways.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that doesn't get you.
It doesn't, but
No,
It's
the
also-
36, 39 points, whatever, don't get you the
I
tree.
will
out
also
front.
say this: that's a heavy burden to put on somebody who's just doing 3 to 5 lots. Or
A
19.
tree?
Yes.
How much?
Oh, street canopy tree system? Yes.
Well, you only got to put in a 2-inch one.
they have to be spaced 20 feet on center.
Yes.
If he's only
And they
doing
can't
5
be-
lots, that's like 5 trees.
I have no problem leaving it as
Okay,
major
I
subdivisions.
just want
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it to the board.
Yes.
Right
Yeah, I mean,
now,
how many-
right
how
now
many-
it's major only. If that's what we want, then
Yes.
fine.
How many minor subdivisions does this really pertain to? And
It will minor subdivisions will you define them differently now. So in the future there's propensity for more minor subdivisions. But I mean I think a lot of your subdivisions that come before you, most of them are gonna be major. I mean
okay.
so- and I can talk about this at the end of the meeting or not, but there's already been now some legislation that's been filed to preempt a number of things here. Senate Bill 317 is, you can look up, it's a workforce housing bill that basically said if you provide development and 20% of that development goes to 80% below average median income, or folks that are at average median income, and it's maintained by owned by those folks for 1 year. The rest of your subdivision, or basically the entirety of the subdivision, is not have to be under the purview of any dimensional standards, any tree requirements, any sidewalk.
What is happening?
That's I'm just telling you.
And that's before the North Carolina.
It's in the Senate right now. Senate Bill.
So a
317.
developer could create some low-income housing in a parcel, and
They
then
have to have 10 acres. But
and then you could-
theoretically, they could have a 100-lot subdivision. 20 of those lots could be carved out for folks at
Low
80% of the median income.
below 80%. I mean,
And the rest
Yeah.
of them, let's say, could be,
Medium income as defined as statewide, countywide, village-wide.
I can't. Usually, the census tract has a median income, or I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure how it's, but
well, median income can cover a lot of sins,
All right, let's.
So anyways,
let's not.
All
I
right,
just
so-
want to point out, and I alluded to some of this before, but it's that there's been two that have been filed. There's going to be a couple more. but-
So let me ask this question on a broader, since we're on that. Say that does get passed and signed, which sounds like it's going to occur just as we finish this process. Are we going to go back and fix it
well, there will be
before we get
there'll
to
be,
council?
I mean, this would be that state statute would be applicable without you fixing anything. Everybody's ordinances will have to be updated, to incorporate.
I know, but
So-
so in
what-
other words, say they pass and sign it, that becomes law, and we're at the end of this process. Should we then go back and it's like we did before we did the 160D update to the whole thing? While before we get this adopted or sent it to council, should we go back and
I
make the
think
changes?
I think that's a hypothetical, and I think that I don't know where this thing is
Right.
going to go.
I'm saying
but-
if it does, and we haven't sent this to council, do you think we should? I sense from your look on your face that we shouldn't.
I don't. I pointed out just for the point of just understanding the pressure that
That
is.
we could be overruled on a lot of things.
That's all.
Do you have a specific legislative number for that? piece of-
317.
317 Senate bill.
Senate Bill 370.
Let me
sorry, say it
pose a
again.
question to move on under subdivision
Yeah.
canopy trees 4.14. Where
Could
we
you just
talk
repeat the
about,
legislation number?
Senate Bill 317.
Thank you.
I'm in 4.142, street tree function. If we go down to B as in Bravo under that, I think we changed the 45 foot to 50 foot.
Yeah. There.
So-
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to point that out. A is 20 feet for understory, and B is 50 feet for.
It's
canopy.
25 feet, isn't it?
No.
We changed it to 20 and 50
I
to
missed that.
to
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we changed the
to,
45 to
to
50.
mirror the Article 3
Got it.
provisions.
And we
Um,
also, I think if I remember right, 50 was a good round number instead of 45.
Yeah.
And we
I think
said
we
we'd
did
like
that
to
on
be
both of them.
consistent. I think that's a point Ron brought up before. Let's have it easy. When we go down to number 5 there, if a sidewalk is present, trees shall be located between the pavement and the sidewalk. Now, I think we need to add on to that where right-of-way and utilities allow. Because haven't we had some very specific situations here where it was, and let's tell the people what they are allowed to do and not have to.
I will say that most local governments do not have a mandatory street tree canopy requirement in place because of those underlying
Mhm.
constraints. Basically, if the developer wants to put street trees, it's, you do it, but it's hard to mandate this type of thing because of the utility conflict.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
We talk about, I'm sorry, Sybil, did you have something else?
I just was agreeing with him.
Number 6, all site triangles and distances must be maintained. I think there's confusion as to where a site triangle is appropriate to be considered. And it isn't at a driveway. It is at an intersection.
Yeah.
And I don't know that,
This would be applicable not at a driveway.
Okay, all right.
It would be as defined, and we've
I
got
didn't
it
know
in
it was
here.
clear that that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, this would be where the UDO administrator would know that a site triangle is not subject to
Okay,
to an
all right.
actual driveway.
So maybe that's in a definition somewhere, or it's,
It's just where you define site triangle.
yeah, there was a section on that.
It's in
Okay.
Article 3.
That's enough.
Okay.
Under 4.15, recreation and open space requirements in A, I think the first sentence where it says, and it's underlined, 10 more lots. I think it's 10 or
10 or more.
Yeah, that was a
or more than 10 lots.
yeah.
No,
that-
10 or
that-
more.
That was a
Of 10.
typo.
Yeah, and then further down, I think if that is 10 or more, then are we? I thought there was some less
So
than
yeah,
10.
greater than 10 lots. Sorry.
So it's greater than 10 lots.
Yes, thank you. That's the provision as is.
Every
and,
person,
and this was not one that we suggested to change.
every person for something land residential per consisting. So it starts at 11. So again, reading the whole sentence.
Yeah, it starts at 11.
Residential purposes consisting, I guess should be an of in there,
Yep.
of 11 or more lots.
Yeah, of or greater than 10 lots. Either way,
Right.
I'll have it worded appropriately.
Yeah, and then if the
Right.
total
I think
number of lots
Keep
entire,
consistent with the word 10, greater than 10, as
Greater than
opposed
10,
to
yeah.
getting a new word
Yeah.
11 in
Yeah.
there. I think it confuses
Yeah.
people.
because then you got an exceeds 10 and further down less than 10.
Yeah, that less than 10 is wrong.
Less than 10. Yeah.
It's-
So I think it's just,
Yeah, okay, you're going to reword that to be
Yeah.
consistent
with,
it's 10 or more.
no, it's 10 or down, not required. 11 or more is required.
Right. Okay, is that
Yes.
clear?
Yep.
We get down to, well, Richard, do you have any? We're in the middle of 4.15.
No, I'm good.
Ron,
4.15? No, that was it. Just getting the
okay.
numbers right there.
Sybil,
I'm good.
anything in 4.15? I had an issue with 4.15D as in dog. Number one, it says all open space shall have a minimum horizontal dimension of 50 feet. What does that mean? A minimum does that mean there's a leg in some dimension that's 50 foot?
The intent of that is that you're not providing little slivers of unusable open space.
Mhm.
That it is
Right.
50 feet
sufficiently
wide.
wide enough.
In both directions?
Well, that's my margin question. I say, does this mean 50 foot by 50 foot? Or I know everything isn't square, but I just didn't know
So
how
is
to
it-
interpret 50
Yeah, so it
foot
has to have-
horizontal
So
dimension.
if it would be more helpful, it could say shall have a minimum average width of 50 feet. Would that?
Yeah, but then it could be 1 foot long.
No. Yeah, I see what
Yeah,
you're
it
saying.
could be. It could be a sliver that just happens to be 50 foot on one leg and 51 foot on another, but it's only 2 feet wide. It's
Well,
But you would still have a 50-foot.
no.
Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Yep.
but you don't want
I
to have
think you
it.
don't we want to say that any dimension has to be no less than 50 feet? In other words, if it got to be at least 50 feet wide and 50 feet
Then
long,
you're going to make
two-
a circle.
2,500 square feet.
Yeah, or a 50 foot radius. Yeah.
Right, but still the side
Diameter.
dimension. Yeah, we're trying to avoid. I know what we're trying to avoid. 100 foot by 5
Right.
sliver, which is really a strip of grass. Then
And somebody just declares it as open space, and it's not
Yeah, I
serving
see, I
any
didn't-
purpose.
I mean, I don't know if this has been a problem.
No.
I mean, I think that if someone's submitted that, some little sliver, I'm pretty sure the UDO administrator and you guys would say, hey, this says you need a usable
Yeah.
space
Okay.
that's 50 feet
And
wide.
because we have put the caveat in there that this excludes walking trails and
Yeah.
things that are obviously
Correct.
longer than they're wide.
Right.
It's,
Well, would it be sufficient just to strike the word horizontal and just say minimum dimension of 50 feet?
I guess that to me, as an administrator, says that this is supposed to be a width type of a dimension, not a
not a height.
not that height would matter, but it's calling out specifically.
So you think we better switch horizontal to width?
You can say width. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, we solved the biggest problems. This is great.
And then also the second minimum, we would also like width then, right? For the walkway,
Sure.
has a minimum width of 8 feet.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead, Richard.
yeah,
You said
I just had Easements for, so these uses of homes may include the following: easements for underground utilities and drainage not located in the road right of way.
Where you at?
Where are
I'm
you?
sorry, E9.
No.
Okay.
Okay, I think I understand that now. So just because they buried some cables under it, it could still be considered open space.
All right, sports fans, is ball fields one word?
Sure. No.
I don't think so. I don't remember. Is it?
Then
is-
7,
No.
E7.
Football field isn't one word, so.
Yeah. It's ball fields and play. Yeah, you're right.
You see that?
And
I,
to be
I don't
and,
see it,
and
but
to
I'm not.
be trendy in number 10, should we list pickleball if we're going to list anything?
It says similar facilities, but we can add pickleball.
Oh, good.
Since it's a hot.
You're just
topic.
doing that to appease us.
Yeah, yes.
Um,
I've listened to a lot of pickleball talk around the region. You would would not surprise you.
And so I guess minimum parking area is required for approved recreational amenities, which are classified. So I have a parking lot next to a tennis court. That's an open space.
Yeah, I mean, if the town's requiring you to have a certain amount of parking and saying, look, you can count that because you're providing space to go park to go to that open space, right?
Okay.
I mean, you can change
makes
that.
sense.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Only the minimum part.
That's right.
And we
Right.
allowed them to go 20% over, if I remember correctly, right? So that wouldn't count
Well, it
as
says
open space.
only the minimum.
Right.
Right. So that 20% over wouldn't count.
Yeah, if someone was only required to put 40 spots and you
They
guys
put
notice they have
48.
100 spots, you'd say, hey, you can't count those 6
It's open space. Okay.
as open
Well,
space.
there's ordinances against too much parking too.
That
so
too,
it's
yeah.
because we don't want to pave paradise.
Correct.
On number 6, I'm just going to make an editorial comment. I don't expect an answer. I love that new underlined section that's added in number E6, which talks about legal instruments being recorded for open spaces.
Are we talking about G or
We're
No,
talking about
E6.
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 The golf courses.
sick? Okay.
And what it's really doing is it's saying that it must stay a golf course, or it must stay an open space.
That's
Yep.
what it's designed for. or-
Did-
yes.
Years ago, I know we were doing another one, another one of these, and they were saying that if the golf course sold, they had to sell it in acre lots, and
'Cause-
that obviously didn't last.
That was
Will this
AF1
last?
then. If
Well,
they're
this is
All the golf courses are zoned majority
MR3.
MR3.
Some
but
are MR2.
some are AF1, right? Some of the holes are AF1.
I don't think so
I don't
anymore.
think so.
No? You
No,
sure?
I mean,
Not
Ocean
Steep
Ridge.
Because AF1 would be the 1 acre lot.
Yes.
This is just
Yeah.
the town has allowed golf courses to count as open spaces in subdivision in the past. This is just saying that if you use that provision, then it has to stay open
Yes.
space.
I'm just making a
Yeah,
comment. I
yeah,
don't want to debate
yeah,
it, but
sure.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Got
what we're really
I
doing
think
is we're
that's great.
saying,
Yeah.
yes, you're declaring this as an open space in your new subdivision. It must stay an open space.
Correct. That's right.
It's-
Whether
you
it's a
can't
golf
all of a
hole or
sudden,
Well,
forest.
let me
whether it's a
ask-
golf hole or not.
There,
Yeah, it's-
there was something in here about walkways being accessible to non-golfers in order to qualify as open
it
space.
depends.
I don't understand your question.
Well, in Sea Trail, for instance, it used to be that residents were invited to walk on the cart paths at their peril. And now they're
That would be a separate issue. This
Yeah.
is saying that if it's and remember that was that was part of the county whenever that was approved.
okay.
But this is just saying that if in future iterations of subdivisions that they have golf courses as open space, property owners are allowed access to cart paths, and that those spaces are protected.
And a subdivision could be established today that has a private golf course on it,
Sure.
where the
Yeah.
public is not allowed on those
Yeah.
cart paths.
Just property owners. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. But then would that impact the ability to designate that golf course property as open space.
It's all up to the developer or the applicant. If they want to deem it as open space, they have the right to. If they don't want to deem, they want to build a golf course that's not open space, they have that right too.
Right. Well, I don't think there's any new golf courses going in Sunset Beach, so I'm
Well,
more concerned about
probably
the ones
not.
that exist and what
Probably.
they're allowed to count as
Yeah.
open
All right, I
space.
have that. I have us as being through section Article 4. Unless somebody has anything on G, the last section. I had no notes.
No.
Sybil, do you have anything
I do not.
specific? Ron?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Richard? And I do not.
Yeah, I'm still a little conflumped about this open source golf course versus public access.
Well,
But okay.
we're going to get another homework assignment.
Yep.
Yeah.
But before we move to that, we're on item number 7 of our agenda, which is public comments. And seeing no one in the audience, we'll move beyond that.
Whoa.
Should we adjourn before we get the homework assignment?
Well,
Or
let me just make one quick announcement / comment.
you on?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm on. So let me just make one quick announcement. So this coming Saturday is the town's 60th birthday party. Katie, it's from 10 to 5.
Right.
So you are invited, free food, concerts. It's an event. There will be vendors to a certain extent. There, car show, cornhole tournament.
Photo contest.
Yeah, photo contest. So the works. It's all celebration and giving back to the community. And I wanted to let y'all know to make sure you're invited and anybody who's listening can attend as well. So
Great.
I will hand out your.
Cluster in groups of 3. We're fine. Thanks, Chad.
And our next meeting is,
The 6th of April.
That will be a planning board meeting.
I won't be here.
Okay, Sybil, the 6th, you will not be here.
I will not.
Okay, all right.
I will be in Paris, thank you.
Well,
Where are you going to be?
boo-hoo.
Paris.
Oh,
Nice.
man.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, we've only been trying to do this for 2 years, and if we don't go this time, we're going to lose the cruise. To Paris and Normandy.
Oh, wow. What's that, a Viking cruise? Have you ever been on one?
Okay, let's stick with them. We haven't
they're
adjourned
great.
yet. We have not adjourned yet.
Oh, sorry.
So we'll see. I will be back here on the 20th, correct? Just April 20th. Just want to make sure.
Yes.
And we did not, Mr. Chair, do you want me to just quickly provide an overview where we are with what we got
Yes.
coming? So the next homework assignment that you'll get, you've gotten flood damage prevention today. There's essentially no changes in there except one clause in the definitions that we moved the definitions specific to this article. That's based on the state's model code. You guys recently adopted this year or two ago, but we'll review it to your heart's content.
But we're not anticipating changes in this. This is something we've already beaten up.
Indeed, and the next article that you'll be given is a article on wireless. Most of that actually will be new material. That's based on an ordinance that I've worked to prepare with a Carolina Telecom, who's a wireless expert. I'm not a wireless expert, and it meets all the mandatory statutory requirements. After that, then you'll get your definitions article, and then the full clean copy. And so we've been through the meat of this thing. Yes, sir.
If Article 5, Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance, that you've just handed us the rewrite after we've worked on it before, and it's little or nothing is really within our purview to change anyway.
Yep.
That to me is going to say that the meeting on the 20th of April is going to be 5 minutes. Or short.
We're never 5.
It's going to be short.
15.
You mean
Why don't we,
on the 20th or the 6th?
the 20th? The 6th is a regular planning board meeting for applications that are coming in. And we
Okay.
have several of them that we'll probably be dealing with that day. So Wes is not planning on being here for the 6th of April for a UDO rewrite. but he will be here on the 20th. If our meeting is going to be short because this is already, why don't we get the wireless thing
I'll see what I can
now so that we can prepare it for the 20th and have that discussion and take it?
do. If I'm able to, I have other obligations that I'm working on too.
Well,
But
where's that come from?
Did you read the fine print?
yeah.
The
you
other
can
thing
get-
I will go ahead.
And maybe the 20th also, depending on what the applications that also could be.
Yeah, I was going to
for-
suggest that
for,
we
you
use
know,
that time for, because it sounds like we're going to have a,
Well, would the definition section be, because you've probably been building that as you went along.
Yes, I need enough time to make sure that I go through that. So
So are you saying that the wireless
I will see if
telecommunications
I can
section,
get
we're going to
wire-
try to get a homework assignment in before the meeting on the 20th
maybe, yeah,
so that we can address it, we can deal with it on the 20th?
maybe, but more likely it's possible that we would be reviewing a development application
That is correct.
also on the 20th if Article 5 is going to be short, if we need to, rather than holding a special meeting or
That's
something like
correct.
that.
And you're going to send something out to the planning board in total
I
to get a
plan-
date that we can talk about conditional zoning.
I will work to take care of all of that. So
Okay.
yeah, just trust me on that process and how we utilize our dates to move forward.
All right, thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second,
A second?
I seconded it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Mentally, I seconded it.
Yes.
Thank you all.